Good morning from dark Wisconsin. I wanted to do this video last night, but I have a busy, chaotic household and kept getting interrupted. So here we are at 6 in the morning while everything is quiet. For the next few minutes to a little while, I want to talk to you about digestion, what it is, why it's important, why you should care, and what getting your digestion right will do for you. So first, I just want to lay out the groundwork for what digestion is, and also add full disclosure that nothing that I say here is to be taken as medical advice. I am not a medical professional. I am just a nutrition-loving geek that wants to help as many people as I possibly can with beating chronic illness or staving it off and having the best health life that they can, because if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. So nothing that I say, any products that I mention are not intended to treat, cure, or diagnose. As always, if you have a condition or you have any concerns, if you have a good doctor, you should see them, and maybe even share some of this information. So what is digestion? Digestion is the process by which complex foods are broken down into simpler substances which the body uses for energy and tissue building. Right there says how important digestion is. It begins with chewing and ends with absorption, when the nutrients pass through the intestinal lining and directly into the bloodstream. So the absorption is in the intestines. Without ample acid and enzymes, the digestive system can become stressed beyond capacity and unable to do its job. When we reach about age 30, somewhere in there, our stomach acid starts to decline, and it declines as we get older. It's also low in young children, which is often why you get that really bad breath. Other things can impact that stomach acid, which I will read in a moment, but stress, age, overeating, too much alcohol, too much sugar, all of that can bring that stomach acid down, which then impacts digestion. So protease, hydrochloric acid, and lactase reinforce normal stomach digestive secretions, which are compromised by age, stress, alcohol, or antacid overuse. Hydrochloric acid readies protein for enzymatic digestion, activates natural gastric enzyme pepsinogen, and is needed for absorption of phosphorus, iron, magnesium, calcium, and B12. So if you don't have good digestion, you're not going to get what you need out of your food, regardless of what way you eat, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Optimum digestive function requires a balance of gastric juices, enzymes, bile salts, beneficial microorganisms, and other digestive factors. If you're eating a standard American diet, which please don't eat a standard American diet, but if you so choose to, fiber would play a role in that, because you want the fiber to get rid of all the crap that you're eating. If you're eating a proper human diet, which is primarily protein, fat, and maybe a little veg, maybe the occasional nuts and fruits, you really don't need to worry too much about fiber. A deficiency of just one digestive factor may undermine the workings of the entire system. So turning food into usable nutrients. Diet is what you eat. So when I do a video or I talk to a client and I'm talking about diet, I'm not talking about going on a diet to lose weight. I am talking about your way of eating. Whatever you put in your pie hole is your diet. You can have a junk food diet. You can have a pizza diet. You can have a fast food diet. You can have the sad standard American diet. You can have a paleo diet. The diet is what you eat, okay? But nutrition is what your cells and tissue actually receive. So you can have the most nutrient-dense diet, such as the proper human diet or eating ketogenically, whatever you want to call it. But if your digestion is not functioning properly, then you are not going to receive the nutrition from that nutrient-dense food. So it's going to go in one end and out the other, okay? Your nutritional status is only as good as your body's ability to break down foods into nutrients that cells can assimilate. So again, that's what I just basically said. You need to be able to utilize this food. The stomach secretes hydrochloric acid and protein digesting enzymes, also known as acid stable proteases. The hydrochloric acid opens up protein molecules so that protein digesting enzymes can work on them. Hypochlorhydria, also known as too little hydrochloric acid in the stomach. It's a common digestive disorder, and around age 30, the stomach begins to secrete less hydrochloric acid. Also, overeating, excessive alcohol, or the habitual use of antacids may also dilute the concentration of the stomach acid, reducing the total amount of hydrochloric acid available for digestion. Without sufficient hydrochloric acid, most foods cannot be broken down enough to release certain nutrients for absorption. And at times we overindulge in the wrong kinds of foods. It happens. Or we eat too fast. I've had that happen a couple of times this week where I had dinner late and I didn't want to be eating too late and I just wasn't mindful of my eating, so I ate a little faster and I was like, oop, just kind of sat there for a little bit. So too much food may overburden the capacity of a limited supply of digestive enzymes to break down complex foods into their simpler components. So that's all important, because if we can't break down our food, then we don't have, we can't receive those nutrients. So one thing is, remember I read that too much sugar. I am not just talking about sugar from cookies, cakes, candies, pies. I'm talking about too much fruit, grains, wheat, milk, all those, what we're told are healthy carbohydrates, are not healthy. They are not healthy for you, and your body is going to view them just as sugar. It breaks it all down into glucose. I would prefer everyone eat a proper human diet, get the grains and all those carbs out of your system. That will take care of the majority of your digestive issues. If you change and you get rid of all that other stuff and you're not eating a bunch, like those 6 mini meals a day that we're told to eat, that's also going to help. If your digestion was poor before starting and you're still noticing a little bit of reflux, or just where that food is just kind of sitting, a quick test to let you know if your digestion, if you don't have enough stomach acid, take some apple cider vinegar. You can mix it in a little bit of water, drink it down with a straw if you don't want to taste it. And if that helps, it will help short term. Then you need to supplement with some hydrochloric acid, at least for the short term. Because what happens is, if you don't have enough stomach acid, you're not going to digest your protein. If you don't digest your protein, then you don't make enough stomach acid, so you get into this cycle. And I know this from real experience. as well as many, many people that I've helped. Been blessed to help a lot of people be able to come off of their Protonics. The Protonics are one of the largest prescribed medications, because you go in, you're like, I've got this reflux, whatever. Oh, you have too much acid. And they stick you on a Prilosec or tell you to take Tums or whatever. Don't do that. Those have a myriad of health things that come with them, but they're also linked to cancer. And yes, while they will signal the emptying of the stomach, they shut off the acid pumps. And so then you're still not getting your nutrition. Some other things to avoid is drinking while you're eating for two reasons. One, it dilutes the enzymes in your saliva, which are automatically starting to break down your food. Two, it can dilute the stomach acid, as well as if it's a colder beverage, it can slow the acid pumps because they need warm to get them started. So if you want to drink something, have like the Asian culture, they will often have like a warm consomme, just to get, I'm sure they don't know that it's to get their acid pumps going, but it's to get their, it gets the digestive juices going. Because what happens is when you get that heartburn, it's not from too much acid. It's from the food sitting there, not digesting right away, and creating, fermenting basically. So then it creates like a bacteria, and that pushes up on the sphincter muscle, which then makes either the food bubble up, or just that gas, all depending on the stomach. So when you are, when you need to fix your digestion, there are plenty of safe options, and I'll share what I use in a moment, but you want to increase that stomach acid, not decrease. And so when you adopt a proper human diet, if you're keto, carnivore, whatever, but you're still noticing that you have a little bit of heartburn going on, then you would likely benefit from at least getting that stomach acid up for a while until your body can take over and start making its own again. Don't go adding antacids or Tums, because you're just going to complicate the problem. Now, for most people that do switch to a proper human diet, which is a spectrum of low carb, high fat, where you've got like my kids, they're metabolically healthy, so they can handle some nuts and berries, but we're keeping all the processed crap out. So they're at one spectrum, whereas the other end of the spectrum, we've got my type 1 diabetic husband who should not be having any of that fruit or anything like that, because all of that is going to raise his blood sugar, which is going to make him have to take more insulin, which is going to make him gain weight, which is going to make more complications for his organs, and he's not going to be around as long for us. So you have the spectrum of proper human diet, but it is nothing like the SAD diet, the standard American diet. You still have, you've gotten rid of the gluten, the wheat, the oats, all those heart healthy things that we're told to eat, and you're adding in all the good fats, all the good saturated fats that we're told don't eat. Okay? Most people, when they adopt that, their digestion will right itself. But if it doesn't, because maybe it was really poor before you switched, you might need a little help, and that's okay. I still, even eating this way for a long time, occasionally I'm just like, yeah, that's not sitting right, and so I'll take some digestive enzymes. I only use whole food, concentrated nutrients, because I don't want any of that chemical stuff. I used to live out of health food stores for many years, trying to find something that would help my husband. Nothing did, so I stopped, and then God dropped Neolife into our laps, and we became customers, really saved my husband's life. And so we went on to make it our mission to help others the way that we had been helped. So we are directors with the company Neolife. And so I do get paid by the company, so I just want full disclosure. But even if I didn't, I would still be recommending this company because they're almost 65 years old. They hold a pharmaceutical license, so everything is standardized. And it's just food, so the FDA does not make them put on their labels, keep out of reach of children, or if you're pregnant or nursing, because it's literally just food. So I feel safe having that around my kids. If they were to take something, I don't have to worry about calling poison control or anything like that because it's just food. So there are articles on PubMed that are backing up exactly what I just said. And I'm going to link those as well as the products that I use, as well as what I read. Now, what I read came from Neolife's research, and because Neolife holds a pharmaceutical license, they really follow the food pyramid in their literature because they have to walk this tightrope to not get their license yanked, because then even though their products would be just as good, they wouldn't have the testing and things available to them. So when I link this, it is going to talk about adding fiber to your diet and grains. Just ignore all of that, okay? Unless you're eating that way, then that's fine. But if you're like me, and I would suspect that that's why you're on my channel, just ignore that. Ignore the eating smaller meals, because that's all what the mainstream says, and in the literature that they publish, they have to toe the line. So that's what that is, and I take that. I always use the shopping cart method in any research. What really aligns, what do I find with this research, and this research, and this research, and if all of them kind of say the same thing, then that's pretty much the consensus that I go by, as well as peer-reviewed studies and things like that. Now, there are, in the PubMeds that I will be linking, there are not randomized controlled studies because there's no money in it, so to get funding of it, it's just not there. But they have tested individuals' stomach acid and actually verified that yes, it is low, and yes, these are the things, and that supplementing with hydrochloric acid can help with that. So really, what do you have to lose if you have heartburn, or you're trying to get your digestion right? What do you have to lose with going a more natural route? And if it doesn't work, okay, fine, then try the protonic. But I would suspect, based off of my research, that 95% of people are suffering from too little acid, not too much. You could very well be in the 5% that has too much, but it doesn't hurt to try. And like I said, you can try that apple cider vinegar. If that helps, it's not going to help long term, but if it helps in that moment, you've got a pretty good indication. So I use two things from Neolife, and I will link these both in the description. So this is Beta-Gest. This is the stomach acid. It's made from beetroot, but there's no carbs or anything with it. So it has your proteins and your the hydrochloric. It replaces the hydrochloric acid. So I do use this, and this actually saved my husband about 13 years ago. This is what really led us down this path. He was very sick and couldn't digest anything at all, had lots of testing done. The doctors had no clue. But he was sick. He was getting malnourished. Things would go in one end and not come out the other. It was really bad. And so when they couldn't help us, that led me to researching, and we had already been using some of the Neolife products, but in my researching, I was like, oh, he's type 1 diabetic, these things can happen, and everything was pointing to this. So we started with the Beta-Gest and then the enzyme, and along with adding acidophilus, and he just turned right around. And so these work, okay? Now, if you don't have a gallbladder or you have trouble breaking down fats, especially if you're coming from a standard American diet to more the proper human diet where you're eating more protein and fat while your body is adjusting, you may need digestive enzymes. This is targeted for your intestines. It's coated so that the stomach acid doesn't break it down. It won't break down until it gets into your intestines. This has ox bile in it, which is basically helps to replace the gallbladder enzyme, and that's what's recommended for like having to supplement. So we use both these. They're both very, very good. My camera won't pick up on the back, but there's the only thing that it says on here is that the statements haven't been evaluated or backed up by the FDA, which who cares? But there's no warning labels, and all Neolife's labels are checked by the FDA. They have to follow very strict standards. So that's all I'm going to say about Neolife, because that's not what this was about. This is about digestion, but I wanted to share the products that I use, I know are safe and have worked for us. If you have something else that you want to use, by all means. So I'm going to link the PubMed, which also talks about grains and this and that because it's the medical culture. But the reason that I'm going to link those is because it's very important to see that it is too little stomach acid, not too much stomach acid. And even a lot of the doctors that I follow that are in this sphere, and I follow and love, they still don't seem to get this. I have heard them say, you may need to talk to your doctor about getting on an acid pump inhibitor, a protonic. That's the wrong advice. First advice should be to check and see if your acid is low, because that may fix it, and then as you get further and further and your digestion starts healing, then you won't need it or not need it as much. So I hope that this was helpful. If you did find it helpful, be sure to hit the like and the share. Again, nothing was medical advice, and I just wanted to share what had helped us, and hopefully it will help other people, because if I can save other people from being on heartburn medication or, and having those effects and complications, that's my mission. My mission is just to help people. If you have any questions about anything that I talked about, leave a comment on the video. You can always reach me through my website, which will be linked in the video notes as well. With that, everyone have a terrific Wednesday, and I'll see you guys next time.